Okay, hello guys. Welcome to episode 4 of my Communication Unlock series. I'm locking in, I'm getting there. This episode, I'll be going over the process of perception and how it affects communication. So, we're going to start off by defining what perception is, which is basically the way we make sense of the world around us. So, our biases, lifestyles, beliefs, etc., those affect how we perceive things, right? So everyone understands and processes things differently. This might be good for learning and relationship building, but it can also cause conflict. So the fact that we process information differently, it can be both positive and negative. It's also good to note that having different perception or preferences or beliefs, it doesn't mean that any one person is wrong. It just means that we're all different, and that's totally fine. Now we're going to be going over the process of perception, which includes selection, organization, interpretation, negotiation. I'm going to explain these in a little bit more detail. So we first have selection, which refers to individuals paying attention to certain details while ignoring others. So you might enter a room and you might pay attention to you're finding your friend, so you kind of ignore everybody else that is there because you're looking for that one person. Or you're watching a video but you don't see anything other than the bright pink umbrella, just yeah, random. So yeah, that's basically selection. Then organization, it's a part of the process where we put people or situations in categories. So you put like, okay, I see my friend, that's a friend or a coworker or family. You put everybody in category. That's a baseball player, that type of vibe. And then interpretation refers to when we assign meaning to data that we've already selected and organized. This is due to factors such as our expectations, our personal experiences, and assumptions affect how we interpret things. So, say for instance, your coworker says, this is a coworker that's a friend, is like, oh, I was late because I was the train, I missed the train. You're gonna believe that over, or it's easier for you to believe that over a coworker that you don't like that much, and they're like, oh, I'm late. You're gonna be like, oh, maybe they didn't leave early enough. So you interpret differently because of that would be like your personal experience or your assumptions. Yeah. So perception is an ongoing process, so it's constantly changing over time. Like you perceive things differently. You might perceive the same thing differently based on probably new information, different things. And lastly, we have negotiation. So this refers to how our perception can be affected by others' opinion. For example, if you think someone is a bad person, right? But then you're talking to your sibling and they're like, oh my God, I love Natasha. And you're like, well, I didn't like Natasha. No, you want to hear why she likes Natasha. And that might change how you view Natasha because you're like, maybe I was wrong. Maybe Natasha is actually a bad person, a good person, sorry. Okay, so influences on perception. I'm just going to be listing these. So, our perception is influenced by many factors. So, these include information that you know about someone or something, right? Also, due to physiological influences such as hearing, tasting, age, health, fatigue, hunger, and biological cycles. So, your hormone change, maybe you're feeling more stressed, less stressed. Um, Psychological challenges, for example, someone with ADHD, it might be harder for them to stay focused. And we also have, due to cultural differences, due to our race, due to our social rules, such as our gender or occupation or relationships, right? So now we're going to be going over common tendencies in perception. So, number one, we judge ourselves less harshly or we make excuses, right? So if someone does poorly on a test, it's easy for you to be like, oh, they didn't study enough or they were lazy. But then when you fail the test, you're like, the notes weren't clear or the professor didn't tell you that that was going to be on the test or the questions were harder. You're going to find some excuse as to why you didn't do well, but you're quicker to say, oh, that person didn't study properly. So you're more lenient on yourself. So we we hold on to the initial thought we have about someone. So we kind of hold on to the first impressions we have on someone, right? So we assume that everyone thinks like us. So you assume that everyone thinks the same, they have the same belief, all of that. So some situation we don't understand why somebody else, why they would do that, because I wouldn't do it, right? But that's not the case because we all perceive things differently, we all do things differently. So our expectation influences how we see others. So say for instance, somebody told you that, oh, that professor is phenomenal. You're going to have an expectation that this professor is going to be wonderful, and vice versa if they were bad. That's what you're expecting. Lastly, we are influenced by things that grab our attention. For example, if you enter a room, you're gonna see the pink umbrella before you see the white light switch because it's bright, right? So this is a tool I find really helpful. So this is perfect perception checking, which is basically a tool used to clarify information rather than assuming, right? It has three elements. So first, you're going to so say for instance you misunderstand something. No, let's go over the three elements first. So you're going to describe the behavior that you noticed without judgment, right? Then you're going to offer at least two ways this information might be interpreted. And then third, you're going to ask for clarification on how this information should have been interpreted, right? So the example I wrote down is, so you get into work and it seems like your coworker has been ignoring you, right? Instead of assuming that they hate you or you're a bad person or I don't know, you could do a perception check, right? So we're gonna include the three elements. So first, you're gonna say, "Hey, I realize that you have not spoken to me all day." Two, is it because I didn't cover your shift yesterday, or are you just exhausted, right, from a long day? Third, the third element now is, how are you feeling? Is everything okay? You're just trying to clarify the information. You're not accusing them. You're doing it as best as possible. No judgment, none of that. So this can help clarify what's going on without accusation or starting unnecessary conflict. So instead of ignoring her because you think she's ignoring you, you're clarifying it because it's your coworker. You're going to need to work with her on a daily, right? So perception checking consideration. So these things should be considered when deciding, is perception checking the best approach to a situation, because sometimes it doesn't always work, just as with anything, like it might not work. So number one, okay, so you don't always have to include all parts or elements. Sometimes just a simple, is everything okay, that's enough to clarify a situation, right? Two, you have to ensure that your words match your actions. You can't be trying to clarify something but your body language or your tone. So you can't be trying to clarify something and your body language or your tone is judgmental. So yeah, you have to pick your words correctly. Don't be trying to start beef. So cultural rules. For some cultures, it might be too direct, right? The maybe some cultures, if you go to your grandmother talking about, oh, is it because of this or is it because of that? You might get yourself we're not endorsing abuse now. And then the fourth one is, it might be used as a way to save face, right? So you want to address something um without embarrassing the person. Maybe you already know the answer, or maybe you think they forget and you want to remind them, and this is your way of reminding them. Yeah. So this is after rewatching the video. I just want to add that the whole reason to understand perception and using perception checking is um to understand that sometimes you're wrong. Your perception is sometimes wrong. So if somebody told you, "Oh, that professor is gonna be wrong, is gonna be bad," you go into class expecting them to be bad, and then you're like, I actually like this guy, or I actually like this lady. So it's important to understand that sometimes your perception is wrong. Sometimes you need to look at things from different points of views, to fully understand something, or to fully understand a situation, or to fully understand someone. to also avoid conflict. It's very good to avoid conflict. Understanding that we all view things differently is very important to avoid conflict, because then you're able to communicate better with people. You're able to use the perception checking and help build or maintain your relationship, because instead of unnecessary conflict and you're like, oh, she's not talking to me, so I'm just gonna ignore her. You can simply go to him or her and find out what the issue is. Right? So we're promoting better communication. That's the whole reason for perception, for understanding perception and perception checking. And then now we have cognitive complexity. So as previously discussed, I think in the previous episode, I don't remember, but cognitive complexity is being able to view situations from different angles, right? Different perspectives. So, cognitive complexity can increase empathy by helping people see situations from different perspectives. It also improves understanding of complex communication, such as sarcasm, and it can be strengthened through training. Okay, and the last thing we're going to go over is how, yes, definitely the last thing. So it's how we can increase or cognitive complexity using the pillow method. No, this is written badly, but I'm going to show it to explain. So, oh my God, we have, this is a pillow, right? We have position 1. Where's position 2? Position 2. Okay, so the mic, I don't know, stopped working midway. I think it's dead. So we're just gonna go over the pillow method again. So with position 1, it's where you view the situation as I'm right, you're wrong. So you make an argument as to why you're right and why the other person or the other party is wrong. In position 2, you're going to say you're right, I'm wrong. You're going to make an argument as to why they're right and why you're wrong. Position 3, you're going to be like, okay, so we're both right and we're both wrong, right? So we will have a point. Position 4 is the issue isn't that important. So you're like, is this a relationship ending issue? Is this an issue that needs to make me have a bad day? Maybe, maybe not. It all depends. Is it that serious? Right? And then position 5 is where the truth is in all 4 perspectives. So it's where you can say, you know what? I can see where you're coming from. I also still hold my position where I'm coming from. And you can be like, this issue is important, so we're tackling it right now. Or it's actually not that important, so it is whatever. And then you also have position 5, where you're like, there is truth in each perspective. So there is truth that you're right, I'm wrong, this is or is not as important. But yeah, there's truth in each perspective. The whole point of this is being able to view things from various perspectives. So you have to sit and give an argument to that person while also holding your argument, right? So yeah, that's very important. And it's also good to remember that our perception sometimes is not always accurate. So sometimes, they say first impression is the best impression, but sometimes the first impression of somebody is not that pleasant. That doesn't mean that person is a bad person. Just as though people can pretend very well, and the first impression might be great, and then every time after that, you're like, say your expectation is here, and you're like, maybe not, right? So yeah, I think that's good to consider, good to think about. Once again, if there's anything I didn't explain properly, you don't understand, feel free to let me know. I don't mind explaining, but hopefully that was detailed enough, and we understand everything. See you in the next episode.